Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is We on World is One. We are glad you're watching American Joker, our top stories. President Trump tells the Arab and Muslim leaders he met with on the sidelines of the UNGA that he will not allow Israel to annex parts of the West Bank. Protests erupt in Israel's Ben Gurion airport to end Gaza war. This is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to fly to New York on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky delivers a stark warning to world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly, says only our own weapons can guarantee security. The Kremlin says it would press on with its military offensive in Ukraine and rejected US President Donald Trump's claim that Kyiv's army could retake territory it had seized. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian tells United Nations General Assembly that Tehran welcomes the defensive pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, calls it a beginning of a comprehensive regional security system. France doubled down on threats, asserting it is in a position to develop a next-generation combat aircraft alone should negotiations with Germany and Spain fail. At least 12 people are dead as heavy rain lashes Kolkata and surrounding areas ahead of Durga Puja festivities. Record rains disrupt transport, leaves residents stranded for hours. A portion of a busy road in the Thai capital Bangkok caves in, leaving a massive 50-meter deep hole in front of hospital and police station, forces people in nearby areas to evacuate.
Dubbed as the strongest storm on the planet this year, Typhoon Ragasa is slamming parts of Asia with deadly force. The scenes are staggering. Hurricane-force winds and torrential rain have triggered flash flooding across Taiwan. Dozens are dead. More than 150 people are still missing, and entire towns are underwater. In mainland China, nearly 2 million people have been evacuated as Ragasa barrels toward densely populated coastal cities. The storm also disrupted life in Hong Kong, a global financial hub, where 100-mile-an-hour winds tore through high-rises and monstrous waves smashed into seaside hotels. Ragasa is the 9th typhoon to strike the region this year, far above the average of 6. And forecasters say its impacts could be felt for days as the system churns inland.
On Kenya's Lake Naivasha, water hyacinth is choking the shoreline, killing fish and livelihoods. But for engineer Joseph Nguthuru, this invasive menace became the spark for a game-changing, eco-friendly innovation.
According to UNEP, water hyacinth is the world's most invasive aquatic weed. It flows on top of water and it blocks oxygen from reaching underground, and this kills important aquatic life. In addition to that, it also is a problem when it comes to navigation, irrigation, fishing, and important other blue economic activities, and also forms a breeding ground that for mosquitoes that then cause malaria to the communities living around.
Joseph is now the founder and CEO of Hyapack, a startup transforming water hyacinth into biodegradable alternative materials.
So our solution at Hyapack is to use one problem of water hyacinth to solve yet another problem of plastic waste pollution, while creating green jobs for the local communities. What makes our solution unique is that we are filling in the vacuum of making products that feel like plastics, perform like plastics, but they're going to biodegrade and disintegrate after a short time.
One of HYAPAK's key innovations is seedling bags that are planted directly into the soil, releasing nutrients that boost growth, a solution that is eco-friendly.
For normal trees, you will have to remove the plastic bag so that you can plant the tree. But for ours, you insert this seedling into the soil together with the plant, and as it decomposes, it releases nutrients that accelerates the growth rate of these plants.
So far, Joseph and his team have cleared more than 20 acres of hyacinth from Lake Navaisha, work that has earned him the 2025 Young Champion of the Earth Award from the United Nations Environment Programme.
Bueno, nos encontramos ingresando a las instalaciones del edificio junto con mi hijo cuando se empezaron a escuchar las detonaciones. Y ahí se empezaron a escuchar los disparos y uno de los agentes sí alertó. Ya cuando la gente alertó nos ingresaron a otra área, nos evacuaron del lugar donde estábamos sentados todos los que veníamos a cita. Nos evacuaron de ahí, nos metieron a otra área más protegida y nos explicaron la situación que había alrededor del edificio, un tirador activo y nos mantuvieron ahí resguardados mientras que se controlaba la situación. Pues miedo por mi familia, porque tenía mi familia afuera y terrible porque pensaba que me le podría pasar algo, gracias a Dios, ¿no? Y pues bueno, gracias a Dios se logró, la policía logró ingresar a mi familia a las instalaciones y nos reunieron a todos ahí, pues, y ya un poquito más calmado, pero la verdad que sí se siente bien terrible.
Mi mamá pensó que eran fuegos artificiales, pero yo le dije que no porque no se veían las luces que siempre salen. Yo le dije que eran pistolas.
Mi esposo se estaba presentando porque le tocaba hoy su cita de migración y yo me quedé afuera en el estacionamiento en el carro con el niño y sí escuchamos que eran como a las 6:10, comenzamos que desde el edificio del lado derecho se veía que estaban disparando, pero no logré ver a la persona porque estaba oscuro en ese momento. Yo ahí resguardé al niño, eché los asientos para atrás y me tiré al carro y ya de ahí sí llegaron los agentes de la policía y nos sacaron del carro, nos resguardaron, nos metieron adentro de migración y ya de ahí nos tuvieron ahí un rato hasta que pasó todo y ya de ahí sí nos hicieron salir.
We are here today in the Capitol, ready to get to work, ready to meet with anyone, anytime, any place, in order to avoid a painful Republican-caused government shutdown. We will partner in a bipartisan way to try to find common ground in order to enact a spending bill that actually meets the needs of the American people. Democrats do not support the partisan Republican spending bill because it continues to gut the health care of the American people. Republicans have launched an all-out assault on the health care of everyday Americans, the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Millions of people throughout urban America, rural America, small-town America, and the heartland of America, along with black and brown America, losing coverage. The Affordable Care Act is under assault by Republicans who refuse to extend the tax credits, and as a result, at least 20 million Americans are going to experience dramatically increased health care premiums, copays, and deductibles. Medicare will face a $536 billion cut at the end of this year if Congress doesn't act because of the Republican one big ugly bill. All across the country, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health clinics are closing, including in rural America, because of the Republican health care crisis. And Republicans have effectively ended medical research in the United States of America, including terminating research for children with cancer. This is an immoral assault on the health care of the American people. And that's why Democrats have drawn a line in the sand. We will work together, sit down, meet anytime, any place, with anyone in order to avoid a Republican-caused government shutdown and in order to decisively address the Republican health care crisis that is devastating the people of the United States of America.
Now to a notable shift from President Trump, changing his tune on Moscow and the war in Ukraine. After months of suggesting Kyiv would have to give up land for peace, Trump now says Ukraine can win back all its territory. And he's calling for NATO to shoot down Russian aircraft that violate alliance airspace. The comments came as Trump sat down with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. When asked about NATO response to Russian airspace violations, Trump was blunt. Watch.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Later on Truth Social, Trump declared that Ukraine, backed by Europe, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. He called Russia a paper tiger, saying the war is bleeding Moscow dry. In Trump's speech earlier in the day, he took aim at some of the United Nations' core priorities. He blasted global migration, called climate change, quote, the greatest con job ever, and urged nations to put strong borders above UN goals.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration. Once we started detaining and deporting everyone who crossed the border and removing illegal aliens from the United States, they simply stopped coming. They're not coming anymore. We're getting a lot of credit, but they're not coming anymore.
The speech drew silence from much of the room and sharp criticism from European allies who warned his views on immigration and green energy could weaken the West.
The 21st century isn't much different from the past. If a nation wants peace, it still has to work on weapons. It's sick. But that's the reality. Not international law, not cooperation. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, you know perfectly well international law doesn't work fully unless you have powerful friends who are truly willing to stand up for it. And even that doesn't work without weapons. It's terrible, but without it, things would be even worse. There are no security guarantees except friends and weapons. Nations can speak about their pain from stages like this, but even during bloodshed, there isn't a single international institution that can truly stop it. That's how weak these institutions have become. Weapons decide who survives. Excellencies, yesterday President Trump stood right here in this hall, and God saved him from a murder attempt during the campaign. A shot was fired from a rifle, and just a fraction of an inch saved his life. Weapons are evolving faster than our ability to defend ourselves. Now there are tens of thousands of people who know how to professionally kill using drones. Stopping that kind of attack is harder than stopping any gun, knife, or bomb. This is what Russia has brought with its war.
La France, le Royaume-Uni et l'Allemagne ensemble ont cette possibilité de réactiver ces sanctions, ce qui est un levier de pression.
Ce qui a été activé
en
août.
Et donc nous avons en tout cas la mécanique a été enclenchée. Nous sommes dans la phase finale avant que ça ne se déclenche. Je verrai tout à l'heure le président iranien. On a eu un travail très intense avec nos partenaires américains sur ce sujet. Et notre objectif, c'est d'essayer d'obtenir des résultats, c'est-à-dire le retour des enquêteurs et des résultats très concrets pour nous redonner de la visibilité sur l'impossibilité de l'Iran de se doter d'une arme nucléaire.
La fenêtre de tir est très courte, là. Il y a 4 jours avant le retour des sanctions.
La fenêtre de tir réelle, elle est de quelques heures. Et donc, c'est les
donc
discussions d'aujourd'hui.
Il y a tout de même une possibilité que les sanctions ne soient pas réinstaurées.
Il y a une possibilité si l'Iran fait ce dernier geste. La journée d'aujourd'hui va nous le dire. Sinon, elles seront réinstaurées.
Iran has begun reconstruction at several missile construction bases in the country that were targeted by Israel in its 12-day war against the country. Now, these two sites seen in satellite photos analyzed by the Associated Press are at Parshin outside of Tehran, as well as another base that's in Sharud out towards the east of Tehran. Now, both of these bases, in the satellite photos, you can see that the buildings are being rebuilt, but there is one specific item that experts told the Associated Press that Iran still needs. Those are planetary mixers, which are like giant KitchenAids that spin around and finally grade the solid fuel propellant that Iran needs to be able to fire these missiles off. Now, a lot of these missiles were used by Iran against the Israelis in the war, and the Israelis also targeted some of these missile launchers, making creating more missiles that much more important for Iran, particularly as its officials fear a further war with Israel or a greater confrontation with the West. On Sunday, it's believed that snapback, the reimposition of United Nations sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program, will be reimposed, and that plus the tensions with Israel as it continues its war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip have many concerned in Iran that another war could be coming, and the Iranians are likely building these missiles as a defense.
And here in the nation's capital on the National Mall, a massive statue depicting President Donald Trump and the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein holding hands has suddenly appeared. The 12-foot installation, constructed from a mix of foam, resin, wood, and wire, depicts two men standing on pedestals smiling at one another and seemingly preparing to stroll toward the Washington Monument. Take a look.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Now, below the statue are 3 plaques, including excerpts from a letter that Trump allegedly wrote to Epstein on his 50th birthday. One plaque declares the piece a celebration of what it calls their long-lasting bond, while another marks Friendship Month with 2 hands forming the shape of a heart. The statue, located at the east end of the mall, quickly drew attention from both residents and tourists, many stopping to take photos or to debate the meaning of the work. And reports say the artist group behind the installation, known as the Secret Handshake, has described it as part of a Friendship Month and said that the statue will remain in place until Saturday. The birthday letter, which reportedly contained bawdy language, a hand-drawn figure of a naked woman, and President Trump's signature, was recently made public by the House Oversight Committee. Now, President Trump has denied writing it, going so far as to sue the Wall Street Journal, which first reported the existence of the letter, for $10 billion, insisting that no such letter or drawing exists. Now, this is not the first provocative piece targeting Trump, however. Since June, 2 other installations in Washington have been unveiled. These include the so-called dictator-approved statue featuring a golden thumbs up crushing the Statue of Liberty's crown, and a multimedia display known as Gold TV that showed President Trump dancing with various figures, including Epstein. Now, outside the U.S., still images and videos of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein were projected onto the wall of Windsor Castle when the president visited the United Kingdom with First Lady Melania. The White House quickly condemned the new statue, calling it a waste of money and insisting that Trump's only link to Epstein was having him expelled from his private club years ago. A spokesperson said Democrats and the media ignored Epstein's victims for years, while claiming that President Trump has pushed for transparency by releasing thousands of related documents.
Liberals are free to waste their money however they see fit, but it's not news that Epstein knew Donald Trump, because Donald Trump kicked Epstein out of his club for being a creep.
Still, the renewed focus on President Trump's past ties to Epstein have exposed a sensitive issue for the president. Now, despite his repeated attempts to distance himself, the resurfacing of these connections continues to generate political friction. And as the artwork remains on display in one of the most symbolic public spaces in the country, it's becoming abundantly clear that no matter the denials, the Epstein controversy continues to cast a dark, dark shadow over this president and his White House. And today we end in Ecuador, where a prison in Machala erupted into chaos as rival gangs turned cells into a battlefield. Gunfire shook the walls and explosions ripped through the corridors as officers rushed in only to be ambushed. As per officials, 1 guard was killed while others were taken hostage. In fact, the inmates even blasted a hole in the wall to escape into the streets. For nearly 40 tense minutes, smoke and screams filled the prison. And this is not an isolated incident. Overcrowding, gang rivalries, and the fight for cocaine routes have been fueling the bloodshed across the country. Here's more on the riot and the chaos taking place in the country.
Ecuador's morning broke with thunder, not rain, not storms, but gunshots and screams. Within no time, Machala's prison had turned into a war zone. Inside, rival gangs clashed. Los Lobos, Los Choneros, 2 of the deadliest criminal organizations in the country. They didn't just want control of the prison. They wanted control of everything far beyond its walls. Guards ran in with their weapons drawn, but the inmates were ready. Shots were fired. 1 officer was killed, and others were held hostage. In fact, a hole was also blasted in the wall. Some prisoners escaped, but 13 were recaptured. This was 40 minutes of chaos, And even though authorities reclaimed control, but the damage was done. 14 lives lost, 13 prisoners, 1 guard, and 14 more were injured. This happened because Ecuador's prisons are overflowing, built for one, housing double. And inside, gangs are running empires. And the stakes are enormous. Ecuador sits between Colombia and Peru, the world's cocaine giants. Over 70% of the world's cocaine flows through its ports. The gangs fight, blood flows, but money flows faster. Earlier this month, the U.S. labeled Los Lobos and Los Choneros foreign terrorist organizations. The message was clear. Ecuador's gang wars are no longer local, they are global.
Today, we are going to designate the Lobos and the Choneros as terrorist groups. That brings with it a whole series of options that the United States can carry out under our laws. It is a designation we have made today. I can also announce that we are allocating $13.5 million from the Department of State to combat drugs and crime to support those efforts. On top of that, we are also working now to provide $6 million for drones.
President Daniel Noboa promised a crackdown. Soldiers entered prisons. For some time, it worked. But the Monday incident proved how fragile that peace really was.
Ecuador is going through tough times. We can see that in security. In this case, it's a constant fight, a constant war.
Outside, the city shook. Residents heard explosions, shots, and panic. For years, they've begged for the prison to be moved, and after Monday, those cries grow louder. This isn't just a riot. It's a glimpse into a country transformed. Once safe, now one of the deadliest in Latin America. Over 4,600 homicides have taken place so far this year, a 47% spike from 2024.
At this moment, we don't have security in our country. Our city is in a worse condition because, as you know, Guayaquil, which is where I live, is among the cities with the highest crime rates.
And the cycle never ends. Adolfo Macias, alias Fito, who was country's most wanted fugitive gang leader, escaped, ruled, and was recaptured. Even behind bars, he ran his empire. Rival gangs struck back, prisons became battlefields, and several lives were lost.
The extradition of alias Fito comes less than a month after his recapture and is a major blow to organized crime. The extradition of Macias Villamar, as well as the operations to dismantle criminal economies, are actions that weaken the mafias, and the national government is determined to continue this fight.
The story doesn't end here. Gang violence has plagued the country. As long as Ecuador's prisons burn, so too does the country's peace. And Machala is just the latest chapter.
This is Dabu 7, and we've got some more craziness to add to the whole Charlie Kirk thing here. And a shout outs to Bernardo and Skiff on this one. You can see here the movie Snake Eyes. This was put out in 1998. It stars Nicolas Cage. You can see him throwing the elite hand sign there. Same one Charlie's seen throwing next to it. We dive into the details of this. This is where it gets mind-blowing. You have the movie that is in a setting of a stadium or a coliseum. They're watching a boxing match, similar to Charlie being surrounded by people when he was speaking. Then you have a politician that gets assassinated. His name is Charles Kirkland. Charles Kirkland. Charlie Kirk, Charles Kirkland. You can't get any closer right there to try to signal something or to match. I mean, that's a pretty close ringer to me right there. And then the fact that the man is assassinated in the movie and shot in the neck really carries it all away. To me, the fact that this happened, it just kind of signals that there's way more to this than what meets the eye, or the snake eye, so to speak, in this. And that definitely this is all part of something way bigger. So I just wanted to put this out there and let folks know that, as crazy as it may sound, yes, indeed, there was a movie with Nicolas Cage from years ago that covers all this. And also, the guy that's in it playing the boxer that like ducked a punch or like helped rig the whole thing, his nickname is the Executioner. His name is Tyler. So, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that stuff like this is well crafted and for a reason and part of what they do. But this is the latest. There was also talk that it took place on September 10th in the movie. I could not find that. I did do some searching, Ask Rock, and it said off of a billboard, September 19th was found in it, but nothing about September 10th. If someone finds something concrete on that and can clip it out of the movie and send it to me, let me know. That'll just go to show even more. But without that in there, this is still crazy. Charlie Kirk in the neck, all matching, all kind of telegraphed in advance, in all covered in this movie. Join me.